Welcome to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Dr. Dave Peltz, and along with me is my esteemed colleague, Dr. Joe Hamlett. How are you doing today, Dr. Joe?
I'm doing pretty good, Dr. Dave. Apparently, you're doing well.
I think I am too.
Okay,
So
I think we're off to a good start.
there we go. So we'd like to welcome all of our viewers and listeners back to another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, career development podcast, where we discuss topics to help you with your personal, professional, and career development. I guess that's all already been said twice now. so, um, with that, in our usual fashion, one of us will bring up a topic and then quickly hand it off to the other person to start discussing, and we'll wrap it up in about 30 minutes. So, with that, our topic for today is what shirt are you wearing today? Dr. Joe, what does that mean to you? What shirt are you wearing today?
Well, my first thought is, are we going to be concerned because we're going to be in Fashion Week or something? I mean, it's
Ooh, didn't think about that.
well, no, me and Dave kind of, talked about this a little bit, and so what we want to do today is talk a little bit about, what image are you portraying? How are people perceiving you based on maybe the shirt you're wearing? And so we both kind of briefly touched on what our thoughts were when we earned our doctorate degree. For me, uh, what I did, thinking I had to live up to this certain standard or stature, I actually started to wear a tie and a I can't even think of the shirt now. The
That
sweater.
sweater vest.
Uh, yeah, sweater vest. I apologize, but yeah. So that's the way I thought I should dress, based on, again, I just earned my doctorate degree, so that's how I dressed for probably a year afterwards, and it gave me a sense of, I'm a doctor. This is way people are going to perceive me now. This is way I should, portray myself, and I realized, it was really not who I was, even though I enjoyed, dressing up, but it really wasn't me. Because if you saw me on the weekends, I was still wearing the big t-shirt, wearing maybe the baggy shorts sometimes, and then the, gym shoes. So that's what I recognized in myself, that I wasn't wearing the shirt that I should have been wearing, or I wasn't being myself. I think I was trying to be somebody else, and so that's where I'll get us started with just the image that I was trying to portray, or the persona that I was trying to portray wasn't actually me. So I think I was wearing the wrong shirt at the time.
That's interesting, Joe, because similar to that, when I was in my doctoral program, I started wearing a bow tie because my professor was wearing a bow tie. And I actually have kept that. If I dress up, I don't wear a straight tie anymore. I wear a bow tie. And I think with that, for me, it came with a little bit of confidence. And to your point, I don't wear it every day. There was a time I wore it every day at work, in a couple of my
Yeah,
jobs, but it's like I felt like people were looking at me differently than when I didn't
right.
wear the tie. So I actually stopped wearing a bow tie to work because I noticed people were treating me different. And when we talked
Well,
about,
different in what way? I don't.
um, I think they my perception is they thought I was a little bit more above myself, a
Oh,
little bit full
wow.
of
Okay.
myself. It's like, oh,
Okay.
he's wearing a bow tie. He's trying to make a statement that he's this or that. That he is a doctor or he is a,
Okay. Wow.
whatever. Versus when I wouldn't wear it, is just, oh, I'm just Dave.
Right. Yeah.
You know, and it was kind of an interesting thing to observe. Um, so I still wear bow ties when I go out. If I get dressed up, I'll wear a bow tie. It's
Okay.
just something that I've adopted. One of the other things we talked about what shirt are you wearing today is also around the decision to wear that particular shirt or item. And early on in our, probably for the first year and a half of our podcast, I would wear a different shirt for every podcast, or I tried to. But the
Right.
thing is, I have like three shirts. So am I wearing the same shirt like five times in a row for these podcasts? So I decided to simplify my life by just wearing the black t-shirt. And that goes back to our military days, or um, think of a uniform. The
Right.
uniform it was developed for certain reasons. So you didn't have to pick. It's like you grab the uniform, you put it on, it's the same thing,
Right.
and that's it. And with our uniforms, it's like with the patterning, with the camouflage patterning, you can't you typically don't go, oh well, I like that pattern better than this one, because it's just all
Right.
camouflage.
Right.
It's just all
Right.
random. So um, it it's designed to do that for a reason. And to your point, going into the workplace with a certain type of shirt on um, can have an effect on how people perceive you,
Right.
or
Yeah.
what you project yourself, you know.
Right.
Um, so I know we were talking offline, and you mentioned that you'd wore a different shirt the other day.
Right.
So can you
Yes.
tell us, or tell our audience about that?
Yeah. So in my previous role, I'm in a different role than I was a few months ago, and in my previous role, I wore slacks and a button-down shirt. Um, for most of that time because I did a lot of interaction with customers and people. So I wanted to have an image that people could respect and people could say, "Hey, this guy means business," to a degree. Well, when I transitioned into my new role, I kind of reverted back to just polo shirts, more of a casual look, gym shoes and things like that. And so when I uh, last week I was wearing a button down again and a short sleeve, and one of my coworkers said, "Hey, you look nice. I haven't seen you look like that before." So again, back to that whole perception of the way people see you. It's just funny that people do pay attention to
Mm-hmm.
those details and how what you wear and what you look like. So it is an interesting dynamic that people do view you differently based on the clothes you wear. So it is an interesting thought. But I'll go back to what you talked about with wearing, the same color shirt every time so that there's no um, you know, change or no chance of wearing the same shirt over or something like that. Well, I think I'm kind of the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily pick out a color shirt. I basically just whatever shirt I'm wearing, then that's what I'm going to go with. And because in the past I've been accused by my wife, she'd say, "Well, you got all those nice shirts in the closet, or nice clothes, and you seem to wear the same thing over and over again, from week to week." And it was true. And so now I took that advice, and now so I whatever I'm wearing, I don't try to make it a particular thing. It's just whatever I throw on for that day. So, in that regard, me and you're a little different on
Yeah.
just the attire. But you're right. I remember some of the older videos where we would see the same in myself. I would see the same shirt, but now I try to just, hey, whatever I'm wearing, I'm going with. So if it does repeat, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But so I just that again, the uniqueness in the way we both view even what we're wearing for the podcast is a
Mm-hmm.
little different.
Yeah. And when we look at this perception and decision making, there is a relationship there. Think about it. If you've ever been on a team and every Friday you wear, let's say, a purple shirt as like a team building thing, or it's this month, this month it's X representation or whatever, Veterans Month, or Cancer Month or whatever, and we're gonna on this Friday we're gonna wear this color shirt. And what if you don't? You decide to not wear that color
Right.
shirt. How do people look at you? How do people perceive you?
Right.
How do you feel about yourself?
Yeah.
You're probably thinking, I'm fine with that because I chose not to wear it.
Yeah.
But what drove you to that decision? What drove you to not do that, or to do that, and maybe you feel uncomfortable wearing that particular shirt, Hawaiian shirt day, on Friday, or
Right.
silly sweater day, why did you or did you not participate in that? What was your decision process behind that? What is your decision making process behind wearing a certain shirt or pants or suit or outfit on a given day? What is the decision making process behind that? Why did you decide that? Because I know when I'm cold, I wear something a little bit warmer.
Right.
When when it's hotter outside, I wear something a little bit lighter weight. But some people do the opposite. What is your decision making process behind that? How does that make you feel as a person to make that decision? I'm wearing this set of clothes today. How is that making you feel? Because, going back to the military, we had our daily uniforms, which were, if we got them dirty or oil stained or whatever, it's like, whatever. But then there are other
Right.
times where we dressed up, and they taught you that when you dress up, you feel good about yourself. You present yourself more formally versus informally. And that's where I'm going with this. Are you dressing a certain way to present yourself differently, or to have people perceive you differently? Because if your daily job is to dress up in, athletic gear because you work at a gym, and then you come in and you dress up in a suit or slacks and a button-down shirt because you're having an inspection from your manager or the district manager or whatever, that's a different perception. So,
Right.
that's where I'm going with this, is how do you make the decision to wear that shirt or that outfit that day to influence other people's potential perception of you or your perception of
That's
yourself?
right. Yeah, and you brought up the idea of wearing like a team shirt. Like for instance, where we are, um, most people call it, the Friday before the game, so everybody's wearing the team colors for the city. And if you don't, you're right. What message are you sending, or what choice, what led you to that choice not to wear it, or do you support? And that's what I started to think when you were talking about this, that now people perceive you as not supporting the team or supporting the community. So you're right. All the thought that goes into, well, if I don't wear this, how are people going to perceive me? If I'm not part of the, team uh, group setting, then how am I going to be perceived? Is that going to lead beyond just this particular day, or people going to look at me, view me differently because I'm not participating? So you're right. It sounds simple to choose, to wear a certain shirt or not, but it, there is probably some consideration had when someone's, choosing not to adhere to. A lot of times I don't, but I don't even think about it. Do I support the team? I do, but am I, should I be perceived differently because I don't go all out and wear the team shirt like everybody else does? So you're right. It leaves a little open for interpretation. It leaves a little, imagination on how am I perceived, and just across the board. And that's crazy to think that the shirt you wear could potentially impact, your position in the organization, your
Mm-hmm.
position in your family. I mean, just it has a much larger statement potentially than we even think. So
Mm-hmm.
it's just amazing that we're even having this conversation about what shirt are you wearing today, and how it could be perceived as, you're part of the team or not part of the team. So
Mm-hmm.
again, a lot of power in what you wear.
Mm-hmm.
And I would kind of sidetrack us a little bit, but kind of based on the conversation I started with, a few years back when I was wearing the tie and the sweater vest during the week, but then on the weekend, again, I would wear a t-shirt, just normal Joe, average Joe. And I went to a car dealership, and I probably told this story, on the show maybe once or twice, but went to a car dealership, walked around the lot, spent probably 15 minutes there, and it wasn't until I was leaving, and I'm in a convertible, and then on my plate I have Doc DR or Doc on my plate, DOC, and the gentleman, sprinted out of the office to come and start a conversation with me, and he's like, "Hey, you want to look at something in particular?" And I'm like, "No, I've already looked at the entire lot, so I'm fine." He's like, "You sure?" And I'm thinking, "Yes, I am." So I drove away, and so my thought is immediately is when he saw me just as the average Joe, then I didn't deserve his attention. It
Mm,
wasn't until he saw that I could potentially afford a
right.
new vehicle. And again, he probably made an assumption about my plate that I could afford it. So it's just,
Mm,
again, what you're wearing sometimes, the shirt you're wearing could lead to misrepresentation of who you
mm,
are potentially. And so I just thought that like a social experiment to
mm,
see. And why that wasn't my intent, but that's what it turned into because of his
right.
response and reaction. So,
Yeah, yeah, and that's interesting because, now we're getting into different dynamics of what you're wearing.
right,
If your office environment is wearing, let's say, a muted green and you come in with a bright green,
right,
how are they going to perceive you? Are they you gonna look at you like you're that person that doesn't want to play the game
right, right,
or be part of the team, or that you're trying to say that you're better than someone else because you're drawing more attention to yourself because of the brighter colors, or vice versa? If your environment, everyone wears bright colors and you come in with a muted version of that, they perceive you as being depressed or upset or
right,
angry or rebellious. I mean, there's a lot of different perceptions out there, that go with colors, and there's science behind, different colors affecting people's perception. And it's interesting when we start thinking about what shirt am I going to wear today, kind of look at, well, how am I feeling?
right.
What are
Yep,
my options? Who am I working with? What's on my schedule? What am I going to be doing today? Because when I worked retail, if I knew I was going to be doing a lot of labor stuff, moving stuff and getting dirty, I wouldn't wear my nicest looking uniform. I'd wear one that
right.
was I was willing to get a little dirty,
Yep,
and then, but how does that affect other people's perception if you're in a senior position and you come in a not so nice uniform? You're good with it because you're going to be doing a lot
right,
of heavy lifting and getting dirty. But then you have a customer come up to you and maybe there is a few stains on your pants and on your shirt. What are they going to think of you? You're a
right,
manager. You don't care about how you look. And it's like, I do care how I look. I don't want to mess up my good ones. I'm going to mess up my not so good ones.
right.
So, there's definitely a lot of perception and interpretation that go into this decision making process. And for people who wear uniforms, the same uniform every day, it can make your job easier.
Right.
But then another side of that is, where's your
That was
individuality,
actually
and
what.
where's your voice? And
Yep.
what if you don't like that color? What if that color does not complement your skin tone?
Right.
And now you're made to be like everyone else. And then in
Yep.
those environments, people may identify the wrong person as doing a good job or a bad job. And because everyone dresses the same,
Right. Yep.
everyone's wearing the same blue or green or, black or gray or purple or orange, red uniforms or combinations. Sometimes it can be hard to distinguish people.
And that was the first thing I thought of when you started talking along the lines of uniforms and everybody being the same, and that's the first thing that popped in my mind was the individuality. You lose that, and so I think your voice gets muted. You don't, you can't be who you potentially want to be or should be. And that's the downside of the conformity piece where everybody's the same, where everybody's wearing the same. And it does make it harder to, separate people or differentiate between people because they all look the same to a degree. And so
Yeah.
that's the downside to wearing uniforms. I mean, again, there's some upsides, like you say, clothes upkeep, those types of things. But when it comes down to it, again, that individuality piece that's really lost
Mm-hmm.
in um, being conforming and wearing a uniform, same shirt everybody else is. That's the downside to that. And both of us, both being former military members, that's something you grew to accept because that was the requirement. And I think that was one of the reasons why now I look at clothes And maybe that's why I did, go through the spurt of, okay, wearing the same shirt on Mondays every Monday, just that type of thing because it was a routine. And so now I understand that and I can see kind of where my wife was coming from. Hey, you wear that, you got all these other things. Why don't you wear those things? And so I think that came from, again, that conformity, that still doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
So yeah, you lose that individuality. Sometimes it's hard to regain it, and
yeah.
so that's again another downside to that
And
approach.
going back to, like the team environment or just the expectations of what to wear in a given environment. You know,
Right,
in a gym setting, I don't think the expectation is to come in wearing a three-piece suit and a bow tie
right,
and shiny shoes may not mix well with the environment, you know?
right,
And if that's what you really enjoy wearing and you don't like wearing athletic wear, that may be something to think about. Or maybe the environment is business casual and you believe it should be more formal, or vice versa. Maybe it's a little bit more, suit and jacket, slacks versus khakis and polos, and you think it should be the other way around. How
right.
is that affecting things? And I know I've told this story before, um, but after I got my doctorate degree, I was wearing a jacket, slacks, and a button-down shirt. I'd gone away from the polo and khakis, and I was told I had to dress down back into khakis and polos because I wasn't in a senior leadership position and it was offending people. Can you believe that? It's an office environment. I'm perfectly within the
Right,
guidelines, but a jacket and slacks. Now, if I would have wore slacks and a polo shirt without the jacket, that probably would have been okay. But that
right.
jacket
Yeah.
and slacks and button down made all the difference and it upset people. It offended people. And
Wow.
to the point that they actually complained. And my manager came to me and said, "Hey, go back to wearing khakis and a polo shirt. Drop the jacket." What does that tell you about the environment and the team? You're trying to be a team player and really contribute and present well, and you're told that you're presenting too well. Even though there's other
Well,
people in the office doing the same thing, I can't do it because I'm not in an X level position.
right. Well, it goes back to that what I was just kind of stating, that conformity piece,
Mm-hmm.
that everybody, all your teammates, like you say, are wearing the casual, the polos, and so the expectation is that you fit in and do the exact same thing. And again, that's one of those things that uh, we do pay attention to those types of things, which is again unfortunate that we put that much stock in what you're wearing, how you're dressed.
Mm-hmm.
And so we miss so many other things because we're stuck on those types of things, which
Mm-hmm.
again is just their perception of why you're dressed that way or why you look that way or who you're trying to be. That is their own insecurities,
Mm-hmm.
coming to the forefront, and then that definitely when they complain about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's I can see if if you were wearing really high shorts or something, and something like that, and being inappropriate, but that's again when we think about our environments, that we are that strict on um, adherence or
Mm-hmm.
conformity to a team or an environment that you're in, and to have those labels for only certain people can do these things. Again, you're losing your individuality because you can't. You feel good about wearing that, but I had similar experiences, like when I would wear my tie and sweater vest, and I'd go into a meeting, and I heard one time, "Hey, are you going to an interview after this, or are you meeting some important people?"
Right.
And again, it's just like it throws you back a little bit because people are questioning your motives and
Mm-hmm.
the reasons you're doing thing, and you're trying to feel good about yourself, the confidence thing, like you said. It made me feel good to wear that. But again, for people to question that, based on their perception or what are their assumptions of what you're trying to do or accomplish, and it just, that whole dynamic really
Mm-hmm.
threw me, and I would imagine again it threw you,
Yeah.
for people to question. why you're
Yeah,
wearing
absolutely.
certain things.
And and even if we look at some of the expectations of executives from West Coast to
Right.
East Coast to Midwest to South, the expectations are different. You know,
Right.
one environment might be suit and tie, three-piece suit. The other one is maybe it's khakis and a floral polo or something like that. And maybe the other
Right.
is more sweatery, and the other one is maybe more, oh, you got to have boots on of a certain type. And then you get those people together. What are the perceptions amongst each other? Is that accepted, or does one person think that I'm dressed a certain way, so I have more um, perceived power within myself or someone
Right.
else? It's very interesting when you start thinking about how something as simple as a shirt can have such an impact on not only the decision making on what you're going to wear, but how you're going to be perceived
Right.
by yourself and then by others. And then how do those perceptions influence decision making and team cohesiveness?
Right. And again, I think I said this early on. It's amazing the power in the decision to what clothes you wear, and
Mm-hmm.
again, the perceptions, the assumptions, all those things that come into play based on what you're wearing or
Right.
not wearing. And so, it's,
Mm-hmm.
again, when we first started talking about this idea, it was like, oh, this is cut and dry, but it's not. It's lends more than just what you actually look like. It goes more into feelings and concerns and perceptions and assumptions, and it does affect your decision on what you wear and what you don't, which is again unfortunate that we can't. Not, again, this is nothing flashy or just out of the ordinary. It's what you feel like wearing, but people question that anyway, and so that's where again our psyche affects how we people who people are based on again what we see. So
So we've got a couple of minutes left. What would you like to leave the audience with? What are some tips or tools or things that you want the viewers and listeners to think about regarding this podcast?
Well, again, this is. I think it is simple as it sounds. What shirt are you wearing today? It does carry more. It seems like it carries more weight than it actually should, because it could lead to you maybe getting a promotion or not getting a promotion. It may affect your team cohesion, whether you're an outlier or a team player. I mean, or in my case, when I went to the car dealership, nobody paid attention to me until later on. So it is it's as sad as it sounds that what you are wearing, could potentially affect the outcome in a negative way, which is
or,
unfortunate.
or positive
Um,
even.
or it could do the opposite. Yes, absolutely. So I just if you're in a situation where you're trying to decide what shirt to wear, uh, really think about what how it's going to affect you if you have to not wear the shirt or you try and fit in. Is it worth that energy and effort to really consider those things if it changes you, if it's not who you really are? And I think that's the biggest takeaway I've taken away from just my experiences. Just be true to who you are, and that's why I said now I come here. Even when we talked about what T-shirt to wear, or what shirt to wear, I wear the shirt that I'm wearing. I don't make any extra effort to go change or anything like that. So really get comfortable with, you know, how that's going to affect you, if it's again negative or positive, and what you're willing to accept to possibly fit in for other people's amusement or acknowledgement. So I'll leave it with that. Leave it at that.
Yeah, Joe, I think that's a great way to wrap things up because, you know, is it worth me wearing that jacket knowing that it may not bode well for me?
Right.
Maybe conformance is going to be the way I keep my job and draw less attention to myself. So, or maybe it's my way of getting someone's attention and getting that promotion or whatever. So some things to think about, in your environment. Like Joe said, definitely consider the different avenues and angles of perception. And maybe your environment's a lot easier to think about that or not think about that. So with that, we want to thank you for listening in and joining us on another episode of the Journeys of Not So Ordinary People podcast, your personal, professional, and career development podcast. And loved having you on here listening. If you know someone that could benefit from the show, who might enjoy our very dry humor, um, please pass it on. If we can help one person, then we've done our job. With that, we want you to continue being your not so ordinary you.